With massive layoffs in nearly every sector, weakness in manufacturing, car sales and housing, and the biggest one-month decline in the trade deficit since the financial crisis, the economic picture is not looking good, which might explain why so many billionaires are loading up on gold, including hedge fund manager John Paulson and real estate mogul Sam Zell. Bottom line, now is the time to own gold, which is why the experts at Stansberry Research just stepped forward with a major gold prediction, arguing gold could soar as high as $3,000 by the end of the year, possibly even higher. You can find out why and get instant access to their #1 gold investment today. It's not bullion, an ETF, or a mining stock, but in the past, this gold strategy could have made you nearly 50x your money. Considering how quickly the price of gold has been moving in recent weeks, you don't want to waste any time missing out on the gains these experts believe are in store for this gold stock. To get a copy of his new free report with all the details, simply go to goldmaniareport.com. Again, that's goldmaniareport.com for a free copy of his new report. Hi, this is Daniela Cambone, and welcome back to the Daniela Cambone Show on Stansberry Research. We are talking the run-up and bullishness that we're seeing back in Bitcoin. Joining me today is Nick Prouten, a Chief Operating Officer over at LODE. Nick, always good to have you back on to give us a crypto rundown here. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Daniela. 2023 is off to a very strong start. It's great to see you again and be here on the show.
Yeah, same here. Excited to get your take on everything happening in the crypto space and help us make sense of what's going on. Let's talk about the sudden boom in Bitcoin here, triggering a raft of bullish prices here. And I just want to bring up prediction price website Finder has put together a 44-person strong panel, and they were looking at what Bitcoin price could do. Some were arguing, it could hit 30,000 in 2023, then to come back down to 27,000, then to 77,000, and then 188,000 in 2030. That's just, some price projections we're hearing. We're even hearing others that are more bullish. But what is one to do with all these forecasts coming in? How do you stay grounded and level-headed?
Well, you have to bear in mind that we've gone through a cycle of extreme fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the market with the collapse of FTX and all of the sort of centralized finance institutions over the course of the past year. Traditional market psychology would suggest that after passing through a time period of extreme fear, that all markets are cyclical and that, people's perspectives will start to shift. And I think there's a little bit of that going on at play here. It's also important to point out that while, yes, Bitcoin has, gone down over the course of the past year and even the past 2 years, I'd argue, despite that, where it found support and where it found, stability, even in a bear market, continues to be impressive. If I had gotten back into if I had gotten into Bitcoin in 2015, I would be over the moon at where the Bitcoin price was even in this bearish market, right? So when you look at that, it's easy to understand why people are beginning to be bullish again. In addition to that, historically, Bitcoin has worked in 3-4 year market cycles, and we're kind of butting up against that timeline again here. So I think people are looking at previous indicators of how Bitcoin has behaved and looking at that as a model to suggest that we may be entering back into a bullish market for Bitcoin. As for the price speculation, I tend to refrain from that. People's have given off wild speculations into the several hundreds of thousands, $1 million of speculations. I think it's really going to depend how this year plays out with regulation and with the big players in the space, like the Coinbases and the Binances of the world.
Like you're saying, there's just a range of forecasts here. But I guess my question is, do you think that the shadiness that we saw from the FTX fallout and others has been shaken out of the industry? Is it a clean slate, or do you think that we're going to see some more skeletons fall out of that closet?
Oh, I definitely think there are more skeletons in the closet to come. I think there's been a lot of speculation over USDT, which always seems to resurface every couple of years. Lots of shakiness regarding Binance. A lot of these centralized players and a lot of these centralized finance operations, I think, have a lot of proverbial skeletons in their closet. And I ultimately view this as a good thing, even if in the short term it suppresses the overall valuation of the market. I think in the long term, this pushes us closer and closer to the true spirit of what blockchain technology was supposed to provide, which is removal of intermediaries and replacing them with automated protocols. So I think this is going to be very beneficial for the entire decentralized finance space. But to answer your question directly, I do think that there are more skeletons to fall.
Okay, before we move away from price, just a question. When you're having a conversation with a Bitcoin maxi who says, who most likely will argue that, look, price just doesn't matter. What's your response? Do you agree with that when you're talking Bitcoin, forget about price, it doesn't matter now? On the other, side, investors do want to talk price because they want to see their returns and they do care what's happening. But where do you fall on that?
Yeah, I think again that's it's really circumstantial on how and what you view Bitcoin to be. I think for most people, Bitcoin is either considered a store of value or a speculative asset at this point, not as a true functional currency, although it can be used that way. But certainly here in North America and the European region, we don't use it in that capacity by and large. So yeah, people are going to care about price, and people are going to care about the returns that they can see on their investments, and I think that's just reality, and Bitcoin maxis need to get grips with it.
I've read a good opinion piece on CoinDesk. Bad vibes from the word crypto have some calling for a rebrand. I'm just going to read a passage here. It says, forget the Great Reset. Members in the industry known as crypto attending the World Economic Forum that just concluded were under the shadow of the crisis known as FTX, and they're spurring a great rebrand. So interesting. I mean, the word crypto has taken on a bit of a negative connotation here since all the drama. As an operator in the space, how do you feel about it, and what's LODE looking to do here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've definitely noticed a shift as well towards different terminologies and language. I also think it's a sign of maturation in the market. Tokenized real world assets, stablecoin. We continue to develop new language around what specific asset we're playing with within the realm of blockchain technology. Crypto used to be canonically used as a catch-all, and when you look at the media, it's always being used in a negative connotation unless we're in a bullish market, right? And I think it was the World Economic Forum that put out that sentiment there. Institutions like the World Economic Forum have a vested interest in maintaining the status quo and painting an illustration that these alternative systems that exist are bad and they're not good inherently. So I think there has definitely been a concerted effort on the part of media and on the part of institutions to create that stigma, and the industry is adapting to it accordingly to help build a space of trust, but also better understanding of what the different products and services within blockchain technology are. Hopefully that makes sense.
Getting back to the point about skeletons in the closet, I want to get your thoughts on Binance. In the news here, Binance moved about $346 million for seized crypto exchange Bitslato. Bitslato's founder was under investigation for money laundering. They also acknowledged storing users' crypto with reserves in error. This is a report from Bloomberg. So Binance definitely in hot water here. I mean, wouldn't that be just the ultimate blow to crypto if Binance is the next to fall here?
Yeah, I think it would be severely debilitating to a lot of operations that leverage Binance's exchanges on an API level, on a partnership level. Much like FTX, there are several different institutions that are tied in. And right from the get-go, Binance made it clear that it was going to play the game differently than traditional operations play. And I think we're seeing more of that right here, right now. Again, even when the FTX situation was first coming to light, there was talks of Binance, coming in to sort of swoop in and support FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried, and that ultimately fell through. But I see much of a similar type arrangement taking place here. They're all in connection with each other, and they're all in communication with each other and servicing each other. And, can't honestly say in good faith that I trust these institutions as far as I can throw them. This is why decentralized finance is so important. Take the centralized operation out of the picture as much as possible. Take the human element out of the picture as much as possible, and get back to what blockchain and crypto is supposed to be about, which is using decentralized protocols, not human beings as trusted third parties.
Nick, I want to also get your thoughts on the gold and silver market, since LODE, that's the premise and thesis behind LODE, correctly, you're looking to restore gold and silver to the monetary system. So gold having a nice rally here to start the year. Thoughts on the precious metals, and how much do you watch the price action here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the price action is super important with for when you have a tokenized real world asset like AGX and AUX coins like LODE's produce. It's very indicative of the situation that we're in right now. You know, the financial markets overall, both traditional and crypto, have been down, and in times of financial crisis, people tend to flock towards precious metals. In addition to that, we're also seeing tons of sort of geopolitical things play out, like the evolution of the BRICS system, lots of signals from sovereign nations indicating that they want to move to gold-backed currencies or precious metals-backed currencies. And all of these things really bode well for us, because we have been spending the past half decade and beyond building the technical infrastructure to make this easy for these institutions. So we look at the space that we're in right now as a real opportunity to accomplish on that core mandate that you just mentioned of restoring silver and gold to the monetary system. And I don't want to jump the gun here on, and I won't mention any names, but LODE has just received a no action letter from a very well-respected regulator inside and country inside of the Middle East. So you know, we're seeing lots of activity in that region and in the African continent and beyond about bringing digital silver and gold to the masses.
Interesting. So they reached out because, can you share anything else?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, LODE has a considerable vested interest in you know, being accessible to everyone worldwide, and we reached out to this regulator because LODE has always mandated that we want to be compliant as much as possible. And we spoke with this regulator in depth about the services that LODE has to provide and its offering and its core mandate. And we were very pleased to hear that we were going to receive a no action letter, which we have just recently received. I'm going to withhold the name just for now, save that for a big PR announcement later. But
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
I'm happy you mentioned Saudi Arabia. Just want to get a little bit more thoughts from you on this. During the World Economic Forum, Saudi Finance Minister Mohammed Al-Jadaan was on a panel speaking about Saudi Arabia's transformation. He made it clear that they will consider trading in currencies other than the US dollar. You alluded to this. Mm-hmm. But he also kind of hedged, saying we enjoy a very strategic relationship with China, and we enjoy that same strategic relationship with other nations, including the US, and we want to develop that with Europe and other countries. So not completely cutting out the US here, obviously hedging in his answer, but quite telling here, because you know, we see Saudi Arabia, we obviously see Russia, Iran, countries looking outside the US dollar. What is that signaling, and has the Great Reset that you've been talking about for so long really started now?
Yeah, I think we're at the beginning of the end, so to speak, when it comes to a huge geopolitical shift in power structures taking place. And I think that there's this prevailing air of anxiety because nobody knows 100% which way it's going to land. And so what the finance minister is mentioning there, you know, is a very wise act of self-preservation, right? They want to make sure that they're not putting their eggs in one basket or tying themselves to a partner that you know, wouldn't serve them necessarily in the long run if ties were to deteriorate or circumstances were to change. So I think it's a very pragmatic approach that they're taking here. I also, again, think it heralds that people are looking for something different all over the world. People are signaling that, you know, the system that we have with the US dollar may not be fated for longevity, and that something else needs to sort of take its place. And again, I don't think there's any clear winner at this point in the game. But yeah, I think that precious metals inherently are going to play an important role in that.
So I feel that you're in an interesting intersection because, yes, you have to deal with the negative connotation surrounding crypto. Yet on the flip side, there is a need and an appetite for something outside of the system. So can you tell us a little bit about how people are approaching with conversations? I mean, do you feel like you have to defend a lot of what LODE's doing, or are people open-minded? I mean, where are you at with conversations? If you can give us some insights.
I think across the board, people have been extremely receptive to the idea of it. I mean, that I live in Western Canada here, and the amount of value that I've lost with the Canadian dollar this year alone has been pretty tremendous. And comparatively, as we mentioned before, about being in another run with gold right now. So when you approach people and you sort of put two and two together, right now, people are extremely responsive. I think the biggest gap is still in the understanding of the technology, which is something LODE is really passionate about resolving, making it easy and functional and simple for people to get into digital gold and digital silver into precious metals and to be able to treat it like currency and cash. But that's more education than anything. But across the board, whether it's speaking to people in Africa or in the United States and anywhere in between, we see overwhelming support for this initiative.
Are people kind of put off or afraid of, how does this work in everyday life? Like, how will I ever be able to use gold or silver as money? Is that a concept that you think is hard for people to grasp?
I think for some people it is because we've become so comfortable with the understanding of how a dollar works, and even when we speak about the value of gold, it's still, we're not talking in grams. We often talk in or ounces or kilos. We're often talking in its value relative to a dollar or to a national currency. So there is a bit of education that takes place there. But again, we try to use those associations that people have to help ease that transition and to make it more comfortable for people.
A lot of experts that I have on are convinced that 2023 is the year that we'll see central bank digital currencies. In fact, 2022, we saw a record amount of countries, developing, doing pilot projects surrounding 114 countries. With the advent of central bank digital currencies, let's say if we are full on the road there, what does that deter the project in any way?
No, it makes us extremely bullish because it illustrates that the technology and the tech stack that we've been building on is in fact the way of the future. It's extremely encouraging, and there are several nations in the world that are looking to develop their own unique sovereign central bank currencies, and as I mentioned before, are exploring the notion of what it means to be backed by precious metals. And so in this sense, LODE can help and consult and guide these nations to leverage the systems we've already built to create these currencies. So it's very exciting. Additionally, with central bank currencies, I mean, people like to get scared over the idea of a digital dollar, but we all log into our bank accounts and there's a digital dollar right there already. So it's really, in my brain, it's really more of a migration to a new type of technology than the introduction of something that is wholly unseen before.
That's interesting you say that. If I could just, have you elaborate on that, because that's one of the main things people are just terrified about central bank digital currency, when they're like, but my privacy, they're going to be able to track everything. But are you suggesting, well, they can already track everything, or what's your take there?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I mean, we gave up our privacy a long time ago. Credit card, every single transaction you make is tracked. I mean, every purchase you make on your debit card is tracked. You ever go on a vacation and they called and when you make a purchase and they're like, hey, we froze your card. We noticed that you made a purchase in Bali. These banks and these institutions have like almost unlimited perspective on what we do and how we live our lives. In fact, a lot of the times our data is anonymized and then redistributed to companies, to marketing agencies, so they can better sell to us. So this idea that you're somehow, going to protect your privacy by using regular banking systems that we have today, it's a little bit ridiculous. The only way to really do that was with cash, but we don't. Right. But we are, as a society, moving away from a physical paper market. We're moving more and more into the realm of technology and digital, and there's no turning back the clock. Right? We don't live in The Last of Us. We're not going backwards. We're not Luddites. So you have to make allowances and understand that this is the reality and adapt to it.
Nick, finally, it's a brand new year. I'm sure you have a lot of goals, but certain things you want to accomplish short term here with the project and what you want folks to know.
Yeah, absolutely. So we launched a product known as the Silverstream token. That's sort of a new take on an existing product, which is the Silverstream. This is the same model that companies like Samsung use to acquire their precious metals in their market. And LODE is extremely excited about this project because we're using an already well understood model to acquire new precious metals, but doing it using blockchain technology. And if we are successful in this pilot initiative around the SST token, we could be very well in a great position to acquire precious metals well underneath the spot price, which is a pretty ambitious goal. But our initial testing from the mines that we've contracted down in Chihuahua are promising some very, very attractive results. So we're very excited about this project because what it could do on a industrial level for the LODE project is pretty massive.
Just as we're wrapping, I kept thinking in my mind, I know the comments are going to be like, well, you know what, Nick, I've just been using cash. I don't have a credit card. I don't have a debit card. And I know folks that don't. So any thoughts to those people who are like, look, I've never used plastic a day in my life?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you all lived through COVID and you saw any number of different stores no longer accept cash. And as technology progresses and time's march moves forward, that's going to become more and more of the normal. And I'm not trying to be a harbinger of doom here. I certainly hope you can continue to use cash. And there's lots of blockchain technology, and it's part of LODE's mandate to protect your privacy as much as possible as well. So there are alternatives out there. Maybe it's time to start looking at what those opportunities are and see what options are out there for you.
I guess just curious, and if you can just share some of what you do in your day-to-day. I mean, do you belong to the banking system? Do you try and be out of the banking system, or is it's inevitable you are part of it? Just your take on banks.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say we're adjacent to the banking system, right? We are not a traditional financial institution. What we are is a community-driven initiative to create decentralized gold and silver. We interact with banks and financial institutions only insofar as we need to. So right now, it's kind of essential that you're able to cash out. So having you be able to convert back from gold, your digital gold holdings, into a fiat dollar inside of your bank account, that's an integration that takes place. But LODE as an institution and as a player that provides you with digital currency, we don't do any of the standard practices when it comes to trying to sort of track every single motion that you make. Everything is pseudo-anonymous, as blockchain is known to be, and we try to respect your privacy as much as possible and only put people into situations where they need to do KYC in so much as legislation requires. We're very much in support of the decentralized finance industry in that respect.
Nick, I appreciate your thoughts, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much for having me, Daniela. Take care.
And thank you for watching. We'll have more great content coming your way, so be sure to stay tuned to the Daniela Cambone Show here on Stansberry Research, and don't forget to sign up at danielacambone.com. That's it for me. We'll see you soon.
Opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the contributor and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Stansberry Research, its parent company, or affiliates.